It's Monday, May 5th, 2025, and this is episode 334 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Well, we're a little bit late with this episode. Dr. Mike, how are you feeling?
Much better. Much better.
It sounded like you were pretty bad, and now you sound fine.
Yeah, well, it's been a week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough last week.
Yeah, you didn't even go. You were supposed to go to Todd's, right? On that Saturday. You weren't even able to make it.
No, tired and weak and just feeling terrible. And it's a long drive, and I thought there's no way I can drive up there and back. I tried to talk Lynn into coming along. She's like, I don't want to spend a whole day. Okay, so all right. That was the deal.
Well, again, we're a week late with this episode, but we will continue the same cadence. So you will have another episode next week on Monday.
Yeah.
Congratulations, everybody.
Back on schedule. I don't know if congratulations are in order, but that'll keep us on schedule.
Mike, let me tell you something that happened. So I, every once in a while, get a flyer from Venetian Palazzo, right?
Right.
And I notice that the mail carrier has to put our unit number on the address. So we've got a real good mail carrier. She sees my name on it. All it has is the street address, doesn't have the unit number. And there are a lot of units in our building. But she has to put it in. So I thought, I may be missing some of these flyers from Venetian if maybe it's a different letter carrier. And
sure, on her days off, a substitute. Yeah.
Right. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can have Venetian add our unit number to the address. So first I went online. I've got a Players Club card through Venetian. And so I went online and, there's an option where, if you've already got a card, sign up here for online access. So I went through that process and filled everything out. And every time I would hit the button, continue or whatever, the screen would flash and, the same screen would come up again, but it wouldn't say that there was an error. You know how sometimes if you hit OK and it's like, you forgot to enter your zip code or, something like that.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Right.
No indication as to what I was doing wrong, if I was even doing anything wrong. I just couldn't sign up.
I've run that before.
Yeah.
With different sites, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, well, what am I doing wrong? Tell me.
Right. I'm trying to help you market to me.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I thought, whatever. If you're having trouble, call customer service. So I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. So I called customer service and, they make it seem like, this is going to be customer service for Players Club. But it was more of a generic line, right?
Right.
Whatever. So I called and I said, hey, you've got my address slightly wrong. It's missing an apartment number. Can you help me change it? The representative said, no, you have to do that in person. Over the phone, you can change your email address or your phone number, but not your mailing address.
What?
There's got to be some reason, right? I can't imagine what it might be.
Now, was this person in a call center in maybe a foreign country?
It didn't sound like it, no.
Okay.
And it was pretty specific. I could change your email address if you want, or your phone number, but no, not your mail. All right. So I went on to Twitter to complain. I said exactly what happened. And to their credit, I got a fairly quick response from them saying, sorry about this. Mail us here at this address and we'll take care of it for you. So I did that. We'll see if it actually has been taken care of. But shame on Venetian.
Yeah, that's a little weird. I wonder what their reasoning is. You never found that out.
No, of course she doesn't know. There's got to be. Does anybody know why that might be? I can change my phone number, my email, but not my mailing address. That's taboo.
So what happens if you move?
I don't know. That's a good question. You move. You have to go. If you move, apparently you have to go to Las Vegas to the Venetian to tell them that you moved.
Yeah, because see, you move and you have mail forwarded for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. But then after that time, it just, we get mail every once in a while from previous owners.
Yeah.
The first owners of the house. And if it's junk, I just throw it away.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
If it looks important, then, I write, please forward or something on there and put it back in the mail. So somebody could be getting your Venetian stuff and just, junk, just throw it away.
Yeah, I don't receive those incredibly valuable offers from Venetian.
Yeah. And that's weird because you think Venetian would want to make sure you get their stuff, right?
Mike, who knows? If I had talked to a different representative, maybe it would have been no problem. Oh, sure. What's your address? You know how that goes, right? It just depends on who you get. So I don't know.
She was just late for lunch or something, and she's like, "I'm just going to give this guy a line of bull."
That's right.
And I can get out of here. This is the perfect excuse.
An email address, I could fix that easily, or a phone number. But a mailing address, oh my gosh, there's a street, there's a city, there's a zip. I don't have time.
I would have said to you if I was her, I just would have said, "What's the unit number?" And then whatever you said, I would, if you said it was 612, I would say, "Oh, we can't do even ones. We can only do odds."
I understand.
Please call back.
That's right. Is there anything else I can help you with today, sir? No, thank you.
Were you satisfied with the service?
I guess.
You want to stay on the line for another 20 minutes and take a survey?
Absolutely. All right. Well, on to some good news, at least for me. So remember last year, Mike, Hamul was just throwing money at me like crazy. It was insane, right? And I couldn't believe it. And then one month, it just dropped off completely. Nothing. Well, feast or famine, I'm back in feast mode. They're throwing money at me again to the point where I have to go 4 days a week to take advantage of it. And it's worth it. Every one of those 4 days, I'm getting a great, either cash, they're actually giving me cash sometime, or free play.
Yeah.
So back to Hamul for me. Sorry, Saquon, you won't see me for a little while. And I went last night, Sherry and I did, had a big win finally.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
That's like hitting the trifecta or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You had fun playing your favorite game. You got free money, and then you won a bunch of money.
And get this. Well, okay, first of all, their cashier situation's still terrible.
Yeah.
But they have a self-service coin machine, where you can throw your coins in.
Oh,
and
nice.
There's no charge. It's not like those ones you see in the supermarket, right?
Right.
It prints out a receipt, you take it to the cashier, and they just give you the full amount.
Yeah. I had a bank that had one of those, and they didn't charge you if you were a member.
Right. And I asked, I'm with Chase. I asked, do you have one of these? Oh, no. So
yeah, the bank that I'm talking about, we went to it. We had a bunch of coin that, saved up. I can't tell you, Mark, how long it took for somebody to come over and had to do all this stuff to get the machine going. And then blah, blah, blah. I could only do so much at a time.
Oh, gosh.
I told Lynn as we were leaving, well, that was a waste of a half hour. This is ridiculous, And then pretty soon, maybe not even a month later, the machine's gone.
Yeah.
And we don't offer that service anymore.
Well, hats off to Hamul because it's self-serve. The reason it's important is we just sold my parents' house, and they had a ton of loose change everywhere, sometimes in jars, sometimes wrapped. I mean, like hundreds of dollars worth. So this is great. Just take it to the casino and shove it in there.
Yeah, it's nice. I know that Diamond Joe Worth will take coin because one day I asked him, and I just throw my change in a jar by the bed, and I had a lot of it. It was over $200.
Yeah.
And they take it. I took it to the casino, and carrying it in was a little weird, but
yeah. Oh, yeah. Last night, well, it was like just a shoebox, but it was filled with coins, so it was heavy. Right? You know? And I'm walking. They've got security there. What's in the box, sir? And I open it up, and they were like, "Ooh." So
now, did you check all the coins before you put them in the machine? Make sure you weren't giving away some very important rare coin.
No, sir. Didn't have time.
Oh,
plus,
boy.
I glanced at them, right? Was there a double-pressed penny in there somewhere? Maybe, but I doubt it. Years ago, my dad would go through stuff and look for quarters, pre-1964 quarters, right, that are silver.
Yeah, they're silver.
So there were none of those in there. So I don't know. If we gave away an expensive one, well, congratulations, Hamul.
Oh, Mark, every penny made before 1982 has copper in it, and it's actually worth 11 cents for the copper value.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I did not go through and take out all the anyway. So.
I like it because I just like to look at the coins.
When I was a kid, I collected coins. It was kind of fascinating. But
yeah, I did too. And now I give them a quick look, see,
right,
just to see if there's anything weird about it.
We had relatives that were very prim and proper, and I remember my grandparents would never tell them they were going to Vegas. Oh, we're going to the desert for the weekend. They were worried that these relatives would judge. Well, they eventually went to Vegas themselves, and he was a coin collector. This was back when they took coins and, gave you coins when you won. And he was just fixated on nickel slots or nickel video poker, only for the coins. He wasn't really into the gambling. It was what kind of coins can I get back? So you never know.
Might come out. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was my patient. But yeah, he was a little different.
Like I said, proper. Yeah, this is how things need to be done, and this is morally what you should do. And
everything has a specific way to do it. I guess is the best way to say that.
All right, Mike, let's move on to our free plug segment. Got a couple here that I want to tell you back. So listener Andrew, he was driving back from Vegas recently, and he thought, boy, wouldn't it be nice to be in an RV, to drive to Vegas in an RV? And we've even thought about that before. I don't know. We never took advantage of it. But I remember, hey, if there's a big group, let's take an RV. One guy will drive, or we'll take turns driving. And everybody else can just be in the back playing cards or, whatever, right? It's better than going on a bus. It's better than just going in a car where you're just sitting there and listening to the radio or anything. So he's going to try to kick off a business where he will drive you from Los Angeles to Las Vegas in an RV and back. So I thought I'd give you his email address. It's VegasInStyleTrip, one word, VegasInStyleTrip@gmail.com. He's going to try to kick that off. So good luck to Andrew.
Well, hopefully it works out. It would be nice, like, let's say us in San Diego when we were going, if we were in a RV in the back, just, playing poker, like poker night.
Yeah, right.
The time would go by so fast. Be 4 hours, that's nothing. We're giving each other a hard time and talking, and I guess people could drink in the back, right?
Right, and it's much better than even a limo, right? Because a limo, all right, it's spacious and comfortable, but, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And
limo is not a good place to be playing cards.
No.
But in an RV, you could actually have a table and stuff. Right?
Oh, yeah. Good luck to
Well,
Andrew.
And also the other thing that would be nice about it is, when you're on a plane, you got to get to the airport early. You got to go through security.
Right.
I mean, the RV, I could drive to 4 different houses, pick people up, and then boom.
Get everybody.
Right? I don't know about licensing for that, if there's any kind of licensing you need.
I don't know. Yeah, that's up to Andrew. But anyway, good luck, Andrew. And then we got an email from Anuj at FeedSpot. He wanted to let everyone know that you can bet on that, placed number 5 in their 20 best gambling podcasts list. And in fact, we're the highest ranking of any non-sports themed gambling podcast. The 4 podcasts above us, they're all sports gambling. So that's
and there's a lot of sports gambling ones. I mean, that's something. Even if you, for some reason, didn't like to listen to podcasts, but you were a sports bettor, you'd probably be listening to a couple of podcasts that you considered good information.
You'd have to find the good. Yeah, there are so many out there. Maybe finding the ones that are actually worth it might be a challenge. But exactly.
Yeah. Well, kudos to them and us.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first. You can bet on that.com and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. Dr. Mike, you know what that means. It's time for voicemails.
Excellent.
First up is Gunner.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Dr. Mike. Just got back from a trip last week to Harris Cherokee. Sorry you guys aren't going to make it out there this year. There's always hope for next year. My wife actually dragged me out there. Gotta love that. And I'm going to drag her to Vegas for her birthday this year in August. So gambling was up and down for the both of us. I think we left the weekend down a couple hundred, but that's all right. We got the rooms comped, and we're definitely looking forward to heading back. A couple of things to note. Ran into a dentist while playing craps, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
Was not Dr. Mike, though. He did not have the signature hot chocolate on his head. Ended up playing crapless for a little bit. Point was 2. I did not take odds because it was pretty choppy that session. And about halfway through the shooter's roll, I could just hear Dr. Mike in the back of my head, "You better back that pass line bet up with something." So I threw down a couple chips, and what do you know, the shooter hits it in a couple more rolls. Had an interesting session of craps in the morning. Ended up next to a don't player, and she was very vocal with her betting. Shooter on the other end of the table established a point of 8. She immediately took a $600 no 8, and I loved watching that shooter throw it right back in her face on the next roll. So that was pretty cool. All in all, a good trip. I will note that a trout stream runs down the center of the property. There was probably 20 to 30 people just catching fish while I was eating breakfast with my wife. I'm definitely bringing the ultralight next time. Appreciate everything you guys do for us. The show's been great over the years. I've been through the back catalog a couple of times, and I really do enjoy it. Something that I wanted to ask you before I wrap this up. Notice that you guys have never talked about spades. I know that we played that a lot in the military when we were overseas, and we also played a game called Ship Cap Crew with dice. So I don't know if you're familiar with that one or if you guys just never talked about spades because it's not typically a standard poker game. Again, appreciate the show, guys. Hope you're all doing well, and hopefully we can run into you in Blackhawk or somewhere else. Take care.
Mike, I've played spades before. I'm sure you have too. But
oh, yes. I think in junior high and maybe the first year or two of high school, myself and a couple of friends, we played spades a lot.
Now, when I was in college, we played hearts, which is similar because it's a trick-taking game.
Right.
You know, the rules are different. But typically in spades, you're playing with a partner, whereas in hearts, it's everyone from themselves. So I played a lot more hearts. What do you think your ratio is like playing hearts versus spades?
That's a good question. You know what? It's probably 50-50.
Wow.
Because I think at times it was like, okay, let's play spades. And then we'd do that for a while. And then somebody would get on a hearts kick and let's play hearts. I'll tell you a funny story. In dental school, there was a group of us guys in the class that liked to play this game that one of the guys had made up in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
He had made up this game and they called it RAT. And then the second word started with an F.
Did you maybe talk about this on a previous episode? This sounds familiar. Yeah.
I might have. Either I told you or somebody.
Okay.
But RAT F and the last letter in the word was a K. But
yeah, I think everybody understands what the name of the game is. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was, a trick game. And we'd be in the middle of a test. They'd have these tests and they're like, 2 hours long or something. Not a written test, but a test where you're doing dentistry.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And so it'd be like 2 hours long. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys would just yell out, "Hey, how about a game of,
Uh-huh.
And we'd all get up, like 6 of us. You need at least like 3.
Yeah.
4's better. 5 or 6 is fine. Anyway, we'd get up in a room with 100 people taking a test, and 80 of them are freaked out about, how they're going to do and stuff. And every time somebody got eliminated, they would scream really loud, "I'm out!"
Yeah.
And then they just go back to work on their test. And we did that so often, eventually they had to put a stop to it because the other people were saying, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But we were getting good grades, and it was just like a stress relief, right?
Yeah.
You need like a quick 10-minute stress relief in the middle of a test.
Well, and the nice thing about hearts, and maybe your game was similar to this too, is especially for young men in college, throwing out that queen of spades, sticking it to somebody. That's like the ultimate,
That's the way it was in school. Just stick it to somebody. Yeah. And we'd each throw in $1. So it wasn't just getting them. It was also getting their money.
Right. Anyway, we won't go into the rules of spades and hearts and RAT F. Well, you might not be able to look that one up online, but
I don't think you can
hearts
find
and spades.
One.
Yeah, take a look at that. Mike, have you ever heard of Ship Captain Crew?
Yes.
Crew. You have.
I have.
Oh, wow.
I have heard of it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And actually, I want to say played it a few times. Once again in dental school with some of the guys.
Oh, very good.
who had been in the military.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the rules just briefly. So you kind of play it like Yahtzee in that you're shaking 5 dice for yourself, 3 shakes of the dice, and if you like some of the rolls that come up, you can put them aside, right? Just kind of like in Yahtzee. The idea in Ship Captain Crew is you want to have the ship, the captain, and the crew. The ship corresponds to 6 on the dice. Right. The captain corresponds to 5, and the crew corresponds to 4. So the idea is that you have to have a 6, a 5, and a 4 out of your 5 dice. And if you do, the remaining 2 dice are referred to as cargo, and you use the points from those 2 dice to determine your score. Mm-hmm. So everybody takes a turn. They roll the 5 dice. If a person is not able to get a 6, a 5, and a 4, they don't have Ship Captain Crew, they get 0 points.
Right.
If somebody does have the 6, the 5, and the 4, then again, the extra 2 dice constitute the score. Right. So if you've got a 6, a 5, and a 4, and then your other 2 dice are like a 4 and a 2, then you would have 6 points.
Right.
And it helps to go last because you can see in front of you how people have scored. So like if somebody has a 6, 5, 4 and a pair of 6s, the maximum that you can score, 12, you know that that's what you have to shoot for. But anyway, everybody takes a turn, and that's as simple as
that's why in rounds it has to, you switch.
You switch, like a button moving around like on a poker table.
It goes around. One thing with that game is when we played it, and we didn't play it that often, but every once in a while, you have to set a limit, like, are we going to play to a certain amount of points or a certain many times around? We're going to go 3 times around or something. Otherwise, you get to a point where people start arguing like, well, no, we should have stopped, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So, and if you're going to play for money, determine, each round, you should decide ahead of time rather than just playing
Right. You got to make that real clear because, everyone's putting in $5 and you've got like 6 guys there. It's like, everyone wants that $30, when you're young.
Yeah. And Mike, we're not going to Harris Cherokee this year. Maybe next year. Trout Stream running straight through the middle.
I really want to go. Yeah.
What do you think of that? You going to fish? Huh? Yeah.
Yep. Really do want to go. We were out at my wife's family's farm the other day, and you can see the trout run. There's a stream that runs right through their property. Anyway, lots of trout in there, and we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden, here comes old Mr. Beaver, pops his head up, and comes up on the shore.
Nice.
There's nothing nicer than just sitting there and then, seeing whatever you're going to see.
Yeah, it's the wilderness. Now, if they just can build a casino closer to where you live.
Yeah, that is a big problem. What's funny is years ago, I guess, an older guy that I know was telling me this. They did have a casino within like 10 miles of here. And it was an Indian casino because there's a lot of Black Hawk Indians in this part of the country. Anyway, this small tribe had a piece of land and they had a casino. It mostly was poker, like how Saquon started.
Right.
And they had a few slot machines and stuff. He said a lot of, it used to be the fun thing on a Friday night to go out there and play poker and, maybe a little slots or something. It was just like a one big barn thing.
Yeah.
And something happened and whatever, it's gone now. But
sorry,
they
Dr.
should have
Mike.
kept that. Would have been the perfect place to build a big casino.
Well, Mike, speaking of casinos in Minnesota, we've got some excellent information regarding that from Kevin Nagel. Let's hear.
Oh, good.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. It is Kevin from Prior Lake, Minnesota. A couple episodes ago, Dr. Mike was at Little Six and Mystic Lake Casino in Prior Lake, and I wanted to give just a little history of gambling in Minnesota and some background as to why things are a little bit different here. I'm going to talk quick because there's a lot to go over, and 3 minutes isn't a lot of time. But in 1988, there was the passage of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act that allowed tribes to negotiate with states to establish gaming. And then just a year or two later, in 89 and 90, Minnesota was the first state in the country to sign those tribal state gaming compacts. Specifically allowed video games of chance and blackjack between the tribes and the state of Minnesota. Back in 1990, gambling was still considered to be somewhat taboo and really was mostly limited to Las Vegas and Atlantic City. And Minnesotans and Minnesota lawmakers had a very NIMBY feeling about gambling. Not in my backyard. They didn't want these big Vegas-style casinos. They didn't want one-armed bandit slot machines and other casino games like roulette and craps. So they said, okay, we're going to limit it just to these video games and blackjack, so it'll be nothing else. And also, interestingly, the compact limited slots to a maximum payback of 95%, and games of skill like video poker and blackjack to a maximum payback of 98%. A few issues. The compacts didn't provide any money for the state. That was a problem. Well, it became a problem later because the state realized they were actually losing money having to regulate this. And also, the compacts don't have an expiration. And they don't have to be renegotiated unless both sides willingly come to the table. And that's never going to happen because right now the tribes don't have to pay the state anything for it. So to this day, Minnesota casinos still do not have live roulette, craps, keno, or other forms of gambling found in Las Vegas, and likely never will because they're not going to renegotiate the compact. Mystic Lake did put in some roll-to-win tables and electronic stadium games that have video craps, but there are no physical dice craps games allowed. It's all electronic games with dice on the video screen. Also, no spinning reel slots are allowed, and I'll put an asterisk there. They now have some spinning reel slots that have put in place because of some loopholes. We have these slots that have the spinning reels, but if you look very closely, there's a little postage stamp-sized video display, and the reels are, quote, for entertainment purposes only. So you're playing a little postage stamp-sized video slot machine, not the reels. Finally, Mystic Lake and its sister Little Six did go completely smoke-free during COVID, like Mike saw. There is not only the outdoor smoking, but they actually created these indoor smoking lounges like the airport in Las Vegas, but there's no slots in there. It's literally just an indoor smoking area. And finally, a fun fact, the hot dog cart that Dr. Mike saw in 2008, the Shakopee, Midwauken, and Sioux community applied for a trademark for the name Slot Dogs. There you go. Kevin Nagel, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
There you go, Mike. Everything you need to know about your state.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. First of all, Kevin, those twins, they're having a rough year.
I don't understand. They're like favored every game. Sometimes I'll put a bet down on them and they still lose.
Yeah, and they're still losing. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, besides that, I haven't seen Kevin in a while because I haven't been out to Diamond Joe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting to know. So we're never getting craps, I guess, here?
Yeah, I mean, why would they? Right? He makes a great point. It's like, why renegotiate? Because, of course, the state is going to want to make some money. And
want to make some money, of course.
Yeah.
Although, I could see where, even though they might have to give the state some money or do something for the state, they might make more money, too, in the casinos by having live games like that.
No, I don't. It would not be significant enough. They would lose more money by having to pay the state. No,
because they pretty much want slots anyway.
Yeah, that's what they want is slots, and even if it isn't really technically three-wheel, it's all video. Oh yeah, I wouldn't.
Kevin, we've got to be able to find a judge who can rule that it's not fair or that has to be renegotiated. There's a judge for everything.
All right, good luck, Kevin and Dr. Mike.
We'll get some judges to say that, and by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, we'll have already had craps.
What surprised me, and forgive my ignorance, but why would you put a maximum payback on slots and video poker? A minimum I can understand.
Minimum. I was thinking the exact same thing, Mark. Why would there be a maximum?
Are they protecting the casino? I don't understand. Let the casino.
Well, the only thing that would do would protect the casino, right?
Yeah, right. So
it doesn't really protect. Well, when the tribes negotiated that, they had some pretty smart person.
Pretty good. First of all, we won't pay you anything. We accept. Also, we want to make sure that no players will win money in the long run.
In the long run.
Because we're paranoid about that. We've heard about those Las Vegas casinos that are about to go under.
Right, yeah. Look how long Fontainebleau took to be built. Silly Minnesotans, Mark.
Thanks again, Kevin. All right, let's hear from our buddy Ariel.
Hey, Mark, Dr. Mike, this is a trip report. This is Ariel. So, got a free trip to go to New Orleans, so we went, checked it out. Crazy thing, though, is like since the whole New Orleans area is now a Caesars instead of like Harris and Caesars, I tried to check in at the Caesars side of it, but they said I was at the Harris side of it. So you got to make sure that that's right because the Harris side is pretty far from the Caesars side, so you have to walk a lot. Anyways, the room is really good. Awesome bed, awesome view. It's really big. Awesome bathroom with a tub. It reminded me a lot of Lake Tahoe, except Lake Tahoe has 2 bathrooms, right? But Caesars only has 1, but a big one. We did a lot of tours, but gambling-wise, played some poker there. It was pretty fun. There were a lot of regulars, so, just play with regulars. They also had craps, but the table was really big and far, so crap-wise, just played for maybe 30 minutes, not that long. Didn't do too hot there, but it was still a fun trip. Overall, definitely recommend New Orleans, especially if you haven't visited. Lots of history in that city. Got a pass for the trolley and the bus and the ferry for like $8 for 3 days. Definitely worth it. You can kind of go through the whole town on a trolley. It's great. Also saw Hamilton there. It was awesome production at the Sanger Theater. So if you haven't gone or you haven't gone in a while, definitely check it out. Definitely worth it. New Orleans is a great city. All right. Well, thank you for everything you guys do. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Ariel. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to New Orleans, but yeah, great city to visit.
Yeah, me too. I want to say late 1990s sometime, maybe. Harrah's they had just broken ground.
Yeah.
Where the Harrah's is now the last time I was there.
Yeah, so originally it was Harrah's New Orleans. It's now Caesars New Orleans. Now, as far as I know, all the Harrah's signage has been removed. Now, Ariel said that he inadvertently tried to check in on the Harrah's side. I think he meant the Nobu side, because there is a Nobu hotel there, kind of like there is one in Las Vegas. Because there's no Harrah's. Yeah. So I think that's what he meant was he tried to check in. It turned out to be the Nobu check-in. He had to go around to
Yeah, because they'll have a different check-in for Nobu. Yeah. That's probably what he meant.
All right. Let's hear from Eamon.
Hello, gentlemen. Eamon here, calling in my annual March Madness trip. So what started as a tradition about 12 years ago of 4 of us is now a group of 14 of us. So we have always done the Cosmo Party, which is sort of the high-end best one on the strip, right? It's in their giant ballroom, and there's sort of like a general seating area, and then there's a VIP seating area. And our group gets together a couple times a year, and we live all over the country and world. So we do the VIP experience. It's not really that much more expensive than general seating, but it comes with food all day, dedicated server. You don't have to fight for seats in the morning, things like that. It used to come with express lanes to the betting window, so you don't have to stand in the long lines, and some other nice things. I don't want to fully just say it's the MGM effect, but the party has really gone downhill. And just a few examples. So games go all day, and normally, your food is from 7:30 in the morning till 9 at night. And this year, food basically stopped at 4 p.m. After 4 p.m., it was just popcorn and potato chips. They took away the coffee at noon. They removed the betting express lanes. And they used to give these little gift bags, just snacks of candy bars and stuff. They stopped doing that. And by the way, they raised the price. So really gone downhill since MGM took over. So we're actually not going to go back next year. We've all decided that Durango is just a way better experience. Better food, a little bit more intimate, still really great big space, but indoor, outdoor seating. The casino's right there. The sports book's right next to it. And the value, it's also a third of the price. So Durango, if you haven't been out there, I highly recommend it. Awesome spot. On to some of the gambling. So one morning I woke up, my brain was still on UK time, and I went downstairs to play about 4:30 in the morning, and there was actually a $15 table. No one was on, so I buy in. So then my point was 6. I roll it. I'm standing just left of the stick, and she says 5. I was like, did I hear that right? And she pulls the dice over to me, but I clearly rolled a 6. The dice are still on a 6, right? She hasn't twisted them or turned them over or anything. She just pulls them right in front of me. And I was like, it's a 6. And she goes, I called a 5. I was like, yeah, but I'm staring at the dice. I saw them. They're still a 6. And she goes, yeah, but I called a 5. I'm like, I understand what you called, but that was incorrect. And so I looked to the base dealer where the dice landed directly in front of him. And he just goes, I wasn't paying attention. I just kind of laughed and I was like, okay, can we just call the pit boss? And he comes over and he goes, what was the call? And she says, I called a 5. And he goes, then it's a 5. And I'm like, but it's not. The dice are still right here as a 6. And he's like, just pay him. So once I 7'd out, I just kind of left. I wasn't going to being the only one there and just grumpy dealers not paying attention early in the morning. It just wasn't a great experience. The last thing I'll say is just don't be afraid to ask. I wrote to a host before going, and I was like, hey, a couple of us, we're all going to stay there. Here's our players' cards, numbers. She actually comped our room. And then at the end of our trip, I just wrote her another email and said, hey, any chance you can look at some of our room charges? She took a bunch of room charges off. We're not even really really big players, just what I would consider very average. So overall, another successful March Madness trip. Bit of a boring tournament, but a tradition that will continue on. Have a good one.
All right, good. Thanks, Eamon.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. Don't be afraid to ask. When I was staying at the Orleans back in December, I didn't actually play there that much. We moved around quite a bit, but at the end, I went to VIP services and I said, hey, can you do anything? And yeah, she was able to take one night off. She couldn't comp the entire bill, but I got an additional free night. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
I think one thing people don't realize is that when you ask if they really can't do anything, they'll tell you, and nothing lost.
Yeah.
They don't hold that against you.
No.
And number two, more than often, they're going to give you something because they want you to come back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you played a little, maybe they cut a night off, maybe they comp your food.
Yeah.
Who knows? But they want to do that.
Yeah, right. So, now, if their hands are tied, then okay, they'll let you know. But they want to do it. Yeah, that's a shame about the Cosmo. It may be related to MGM taking over, but gosh, it sounds like it was a great party before and now not worth it at all.
Yeah, and I'm laughing to myself when he said 4 o'clock. I'm like, 4 o'clock?
Yeah, I know.
The games go, on the West Coast, it's not unusual to be 11 o'clock, but, you can get some late ones, and definitely it goes till 10.
Yep,
so they cut you off at 4. You can only have popcorn the rest of the night.
Yeah,
I haven't even eaten dinner at 4, right? It's like, wait a minute. That's just lame.
Yeah.
Because that really doesn't cost them much money to put out some food,
Yeah.
Especially if they're charging that much.
Yep.
And it was a boring tournament, so I guess that's kind of...
Oh, they anticipated that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a boring tournament, so our party's going to be boring too.
Yeah, it kind of sticks in your craw a little.
Right. Boring in that there weren't a lot of upsets. I still maintain there were some great games.
Oh, there were some great games, but it's the upsets people love.
Yeah.
I mean, I do too. I just love to see a little guy knock off some big guy.
Yep. All right, next call.
Hey, gentlemen, it's Jason from Michigan. Just calling in to give a little trip report on Firekeepers Casino in Battle Creek, Michigan. We go there quite regularly, always have a great time. It's a great environment. They do a nice job. But they have a new game, and I'm sure you've heard of it. First I've seen it. It's called Hideout Blitz. So anytime there's a new game, I play because I want to check it out and see what it's all about. In all my years of gambling, it could be the worst game I've ever played. It's essentially war. And it just reminded me of Vegas Vacation and Chevy Chase. It's interesting they can put a game like that in a casino and get licensed, and someone actually made money off that. But you got your banker, your player, they flip over the card in the 2 spots. Whoever has the high card wins, and depending on where your chip's at, you either win even money or don't. Of course, there's a couple side bets if you have a tie, and then there's a double war. It just sounds ridiculous even to be talking about it. But I just wanted to call in on that game, and maybe you had a different strategy or opinion, or have seen it. And then secondly, getting ready to head to Vegas here in June for our annual trip. And I got a kick out of you gentlemen talking about Circa and the noise, because when we first went to Vegas, 30 years ago, we always stayed at the Golden Nugget. We didn't care where we were. Facing Fremont Street, we didn't even know what that meant or didn't mean. But now when we called there for our rooms, we asked for something away from Fremont because we do need to go to sleep to get to sleep. And back in the day, we never slept. So brought back some old memories. Thanks for all you do. Love the show. And I'll give you a trip report after Vegas in June. Take care.
All right. Well, good luck, Jason. Yeah, if I were going to stay downtown now, I'd probably stay at Downtown Grand. You and I stayed there once. And, the room is fine. The nice thing is it's off of Fremont Street, so you're less likely to get a lot of noise. at night. So
yeah, the rooms aren't anything to write home about,
no,
but
they're fine.
They're just fine. And that casino, like early in the morning or later in the evening, is a nice place to play.
Yeah,
it's it's kind of quiet.
I like it. I hate the cashier situation, which I've said many times. But downtown Grand. In fact, last year for 360 Vegas Vacation, we had the initial meetup there, and I think they're doing it again this year because it's just a great place to kind of get together. So. Well, Jason was talking about this game. He said Pai Gow Blitz, but based on his description, I think he meant Baccarat Blitz because he was talking about how it's just one card for the banker and player. So, yeah, this game, that is all it is. It's Baccarat, but banker and player, they each get one card, and there are no additional cards. They don't take hits. So, 9 is the best and 0 is the worst. So in a way, it is kind of like war, where you decide which one you're going to bet on.
It's a boring form of war.
Yeah, boring. The big difference, though, is that tens and face cards are 0, right? So it's not like real casino war where it's the rank of the cards.
Right.
So it is a boring game. If you want to look it up online, go ahead. Where it becomes interesting, if even that's the best word, is in the case of ties, and of course there are going to be way more ties in this than in traditional war or even regular Baccarat because there are so many 0 cards, tens and face cards. So you're actually going to get quite a few ties. So you make these side bets on ties and then, you go to war, if you want to call it that for Baccarat, and you could have an additional tie. And then you could have, a third tie. I think that's where it stops. Anyway, I won't go into all the rules, but that's really the only interesting part of the game is when there are ties. Otherwise, you're just betting which player or banker is going to have the best Baccarat card, single card. So
right. Yeah, that would get old really quick.
Yeah.
What's funny is they named it Baccarat Blitz.
Yes.
So Blitz sounds like something exciting, right? Doesn't it? I mean, it sounds like Blitzkrieg. It's like a big war and things are blowing up and all kinds of stuff is going on. And why not Baccarat Snooze?
Yeah, that would have been a little bit better. Baccarat Snooze. Yeah, and just a little picture of a guy with his eyes closed and Z's going up,
falling asleep at the table.
Yeah, Baccarat Snooze. They deal it real slow.
Snooze. Don't you like the word snooze?
Well, sure. Anything that has an SN and a Z in it, you can't go wrong. You need to come up with a new.
It's not as good as moist.
Oh, everybody loves moist. You need to come up with a carnival game with the name Snooze in it, and I want this to be a good carnival game, Dr. Mike.
All right, that's my assignment. I'm going to really try and do that. A carnival game that starts. All I'm going to do is call Paul and have him come up with something.
First of all players have to wear beanies.
Yeah,
I think that would be the first part of it. Yeah.
With a big flag that sticks out the top that goes up 6 feet.
Yeah. All right, next call.
Hey guys, Mark from Iowa here. I had a funny story from Vegas, and something on your last podcast made me remember this, but we were playing Ultimate Texas Hold'em at the Link, and my buddy had 2 pair. The dealer had a flush, but the dealer didn't see that he had a flush, so he pays the 2 pair. My buddy takes all the money, adds it to his stack. As the dealer is mucking his cards, he notices he has a flush, and he goes back to fix the error before he calls the floor guy. And to do this, he decides he's going to reach into my buddy's stack, grab a big hunk of red, and start recreating the bets and the payouts, and so he can take them all back. So he does this, he recreates the bets, recreates the payouts, and then he has another $40 or $50 in red still in his hand, and he puts that right in his bank just out of habit. And of course, that's my buddy's money. Even after he pays back the money that was mispaid, that's still his money because it came from his stack, but the dealer just out of habit just throws it into the bank. So now we don't know exactly how much that was. The floor guy comes over. I explained to him that it was about 40 or 50 bucks, maybe 30 bucks. He shuts the game down for about 30 minutes to go talk to surveillance and figure out how much that little stack of red was that was remaining so that they can get it back to my buddy. And I'm just thinking this is ridiculous. I mean, give him 50 bucks and let's move the game along. And eventually, after 30 minutes, surveillance comes back and says that it was $40. And so they pay him $40. And it just seemed like a giant waste of time. I mean, I could have told him within 10 bucks how much it was. He should err on the high side and just pay him. So I thought that would be an interesting story for you guys. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Thanks.
Oh my gosh. This dealer was completely out of line, grabbing chips from the player's stack. I understand recreating everything, but no, he can't do that.
I don't even understand that. At that point, as he's mucking him, he realized I would have just mucked him and said, "Oh well, made a mistake."
Well, no, I mean, if he
on.
sees it, he's got, he doesn't want to get in trouble. But no, he needs to just stop, call the floor, and wait for the floor. You don't try to start doing you just wait, and you certainly don't grab a player's stack. The player is in shock as to what's going on when he probably should have said, wait, no. Give me those back, and, we'll figure it out.
Well, imagine if it's the other way around. What if I reach into the dealer's chips and grab a bunch of them and say, "Here, let's recreate. See, this is the way it was." No, that is totally out of line. That would be out of Vegas Vacation, Here, this is how much you're going to bet.
It'd be Wallace Shawn. Let me help you.
Let me help you. He grabs a bunch of your money, throws it down. Bust. Takes your money.
All right. Next call.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. On your last episode, you discussed sports betting bad beats. And so I wanted to call in with my favorite example. It may not be all that interesting, but it was memorable for me. During the last Olympics, I bet on the under of the total of the USA women's basketball game against Team Nigeria. I tuned in and caught the very end of the game. At that point, Team USA was up by about 30 points, and the under on the total was winning by 4.5 points. There was 7 or 8 seconds left in the game. I thought I had it locked up. Team Nigeria inbounds the ball, races down the court, throws up a 3. It goes in. Still, I'm feeling pretty good. The under is still covering by 1.5 points, and there's 0.7 seconds left on the clock. At this point, Team USA is now up by something like 27 points, and I guess the players were a bit upset that Team Nigeria had even attempted a 3. So on the ensuing inbounds, the Team USA player essentially throws the ball into the back of a Team Nigeria player, just throwing the ball at her. Referees call a technical, 2 free throws from the line. Team Nigeria hits both of the free throws, so that now the under has lost by half a point and game over. So that was my most memorable sports betting bad beat story. I think I had something like plus 180 on the under. It wasn't for a huge amount of money, but I was certain I had won, and then before I knew it, I had lost. I don't know if anyone else has been in this position, but I was in a little bit of a daze, and so I was like, let me take out a calculator and just double check that I've added this up right. And in fact, I did. Lost by half a point. Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, bad beats hurt, but a bad beat due to bad sportsmanship, yeah, I'd be pretty upset.
I would be too. And specifically because there's absolutely no reason to do that, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to lose the game or let it in.
Yeah,
right?
It just makes you look bad. Yeah, it doesn't have an effect on, who wins the game or anything. And of course, the players don't care about sports bettors, but that's just bad.
That's just weird is what that is. Yeah, I would have been pretty upset.
Well, Dr. Mike, we've got some more voicemails, but since we're going to be doing another episode in a week here, let's save them so that we make sure we have content for our next show. And we'll just stop it here. But first, Mike, we've got some quality merch that we've got to move.
Yes.
So we have reduced everything at our shop 50%. Everything is 50% off.
All right.
So jump on there, get some of our shirts, caps, whatever you like.
Okay, I'll get production going here.
Okay, good.
And we'll get that moved.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fast and furious, Dr. Mike, so get ready. You're going to have to mail out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we are the number 5 gambling podcast.
Gambling podcast, yeah. As far as swag goes, I don't even think we'd make the top 20, to be honest with you.
Oh, I don't think we'd make the top 100 probably, but we're not about that, Mark.
No, we're about content.
We're about content, and the swag is just, we felt guilty about not doing it. So we had to do it.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. From the International Brotherhood of Gobbling Donkeys, from Brian Dancer, from Brian and Sarah, from Josh, from the boys at Crap Vegas, from James, and from Jeremy at the Color Up YouTube channel. Thank you again for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from listener Steven. Thanks for the show and all that you do. Here's to a luck-filled 2025 for everyone. Oh, very good. Well, thank you very much, Steven. Also, a donation from our buddy Robin Aubin. He says, sorry for the lack of support. Like, Robin, we love you. Lack of support. Come on.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that, Robin.
Also, a donation from listener Frank. Karma donation for an upcoming trip to Vegas. Well, good luck to you, Frank. Also, a donation from podcast favorite John B. Karma donation for an upcoming trip, April 30th through May 4th. Oh, so he's there right now as we record.
Right now, yeah.
Girlfriend is joining me for the weekend, and I get to show her cool parts of Vegas that don't involve casino gambling. Hopefully, I can sell her on the city so I can come back more often. All right, well, good luck, not just with the gambling, but with that as well, John B.
Yeah, right.
And finally, a donation from listener Todd. Quarterly thank you donation. Appreciate the show. Well, thank you very much, Todd. We really appreciate it. Hey, at the top of our webpage, you'll find a link to our store where you can buy You Can Bet On That merchandise at 50% off. Also, you can find a list of all the gambling-related shows coming up on American television at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings. And we've got a list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonThat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonthat@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Dr. Mike, over to you.
Well, Mark, I don't have a lot to say because my life's been a little boring lately. Not doing too much. Watching a lot of sports, keeping an eye on the world, making sure everything's going okay.
Now, I sent you the dates for the Blackhawk trip. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, scheduled for September 18th. So that's a Thursday. So that weekend there. So make your plans right now, Dr. Mike. Blackhawk. We'll talk more about that as we get closer as well.
Yeah, that should probably work out. We'll talk to Lynn about it, but we really enjoyed Colorado.
Yeah,
so,
we did too.
We'd probably like to go back. If anything, just to get in the car and drive around the hills there.
That's great. We loved hiking around there,
Yeah, I love scenery. I like to go for rides.
Yep, scenery.
Yep. Yeah, not too much else going on.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you in 1 week.
Good night.
All right, the game is San Diego Scooby-Doo, 3 decks. We use all the jokers and instruction cards.